In this lesson we're going to animate the player character. I'm going to show you two approaches this time with the player. Slightly more complex regarding setting up multiple types of animations. We're going to use still frame animations first of all, which was exactly the same routine we did with the bee and the apple, or the enemy and the collectible. And we'll also show you sprite sheets. Now, sprite sheets, I'm sure you will have seen many times on the internet, but maybe you didn't quite understand exactly what they was for. We're going to show you exactly what they're for in this video. We'll first of all open the player scene that we saved earlier. We'll do the same thing we did with the bee and the apple. We'll hide the static sprite just for now. We will then right click and add child node, and because we've created an animated sprite before, we click on double click animated sprite. With the animated sprite selected, we go to animation, sprite frames, new sprite frames, click on sprite frames, and with there. Now we're going to create three animations here. We're going to go to idle, walk and jump for the player. I'm going to show you the first one with a still frames. So we're going to go to idle, and just a case in point, we need to make 100% certain, including case sensitivity, we spell these animations correctly, because we're going to use these animations in program code later, and we've got to make certain that's actually matches up. Okay, so the idle, we're then going to click on to the new animation, click onto that. We're going to call this walk. We're going to create a new one, and then we're going to call this jump. So idle, jump and walk. I'll show you the still frames of the idle one. So with the actual idle animation selected, I'm going to move up to a folder called hero, because this is where our hero lies. Okay, now you can see I've got an idle sprite there, and then 1 down to 10. So if I select the left click on the top one, hold shift, go to idle 10 with shift still selected, left mouse button, drag it, and we bring him in. Now you see these ones are very large, so we've got to resize that, and I think we said 0.25 before. So again, in the transform, we go to scale 0.25, and that'll come and place it there quite happily. Okay, you'll notice because we've actually got this collision shape done earlier, it automatically fits because they're using the same scale here, but make certain you're on the animated sprite first of all. Okay, we can click onto the play, and you'll see that player idling away. Fantastic. Okay, now on the jump, tell you what, we'll go for the walk. On the walk, we'll go for a different approach. So before we go any further, we'll save that scene, just so we won't lose any work if the game crashes. Okay, so we go to walk. Now this time, rather than go to the still frames here, we can select this option here. It says add frames from sprite sheet rather than still frames. So if we go to here with the animation we want to do selected, click on the add sprite frames, and inside the assets folder I put a player SS for sprite sheet there prepared. It's the walk animation we want. So we go to open. Now this is slightly more complex because we've been given this type of option. Now if it's too big, you can hold control down, zoom out with your mouse wheel, and you'll notice there is lines attached to here, or rows and columns. And you'll notice there's a horizontal and vertical sign here. So you've got to be very careful with which ones you use. So horizontal will go 1 and we go 10 on that. But you can see it's not quite right because we want the opposite way around. Because horizontal, because we've got 1 to 10 in the graphics, so 1 to 10 images. So if we put 10 there and 1 there, because we've only got 1 row of animations, we can have sprite sheets with multiple animations on the sheet. So we can select whichever animations we want. In this particular case, this fits perfectly because we've got 10 sprites horizontal and 1 row of vertical sprites. Now if you left click on the first one, shift left click on the last one, you'll notice the button changes to add 10 frames. If we go to that, exactly the same type of thing happens. If we press play now, you'll notice it walks differently. Now the choice is you can choose whichever sprite sheet or still frames animation process you want, but what I will give you a word of warning: if these sprite sheets have not been created correctly, you can and will find that the sprite will jump around within the frame if they've not been created correctly. These sprite sheets are what I created myself, so I know they was done correctly. So, but that's another course entirely. But just for now, use sprite sheets and or still frames. Okay, that's that one done. So I'm going to create now one for the jump. I'm going to use the still frames again. Now you might be thinking, well, what's the difference between the two? It's memory usage. If you're using still frames, the total still frames for each animation can mount up if you've got lots of animations in a large project. In a small project like this, it doesn't really make too much difference, but if you've got one single sprite sheet, which is one graphic file with all the animations on that one single sheet, that is far more memory efficient than using still frames. But in this case, we're going to use a mixture of both just for the tutorial. So I'm going to go to jump this time, and if I go back to the still frames, you can see the jump there. So left click, shift left click on the bottom one, drag them in, and you can see that jumps there. Now you'll notice the jumping is not quite in line with the collision shape, but we're not too concerned with that because it does stay within the collision shape. So I'm not going to start moving around the collision shape just for now, but just for one animation, so we'll be fine on that. So now we've got 3 animations. We go to save scene, and now we've got the animation covered for the player in 2 main ways. One was the sprite sheet, and the other one is the still frame method. Both were equally as well, but as I mentioned, for memory conservation, it's better using sprite sheets in one sprite sheet if you possibly can. Okay, I'll see you in the next video.